Wow. What a turn of events for what I thought was going to be a pretty uneventful Tuesday here, folks. Welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by Mile High Sports, SCL Mortgage. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter. What a crazy moment here as the Denver Nuggets fire Michael Malone and they let go or allow Calvin Booth to walk away. Technically, it's not a firing, but it is effectively a firing of Calvin Booth, general manager. This is the latest any team has fired their head coach in a season leading up to a playoffs, according to ESPN, dating back to 1980-81. That is a crazy statement, a crazy thing to think about. And I think that the Nuggets they're going to reap the benefits or the rewards or the punishment for that in these upcoming playoffs, and we just have to wait and see which of those is which. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. What a wild moment! What a wild day! To give folks some context, at least a little bit, it was 11:30 today when I was woken up by a phone call and a whole bunch of texts and a whole bunch of people trying to reach out to me. And Michael Malone and Calvin Booth had been fired. Kind of a crazy thing to have to wake up to, and probably didn't make the right choice in terms of doing what I did immediately after that. But I am here now. I am ready to go. And I am ready to talk about this thing that just happened. Michael Malone is a big part of the Denver Nuggets organization. Calvin Booth brought Denver their first championship with a lot of the moves that he made, a lot of the decisions that he made. And to make this decision on April 8th of 2025, within 2 years of winning a championship, is wild. It is just objectively a crazy thing to do. I wasn't expecting it. I had written about it a couple of times that obviously the pressure was mounting. The Nuggets needed to change something. But I didn't think that they would change it before the season actually ended. And there's a lot of reasons why I think they did that. But one of the largest reasons, of course, is that they believe that this is one of their final years of competing for a championship. It's one of their best opportunities to compete for a championship. Nikola Jokic is playing at best player in the NBA levels. Could be on his way to winning a fourth MVP, though it looks like it's going to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, in part because of Denver's record, in part because they have not won enough around the great efforts that Nikola Jokic has put forth. And that's a scary thing to think about. That despite the fact that Nikola Jokic was having this season, despite the fact that like at various points throughout the year, we've been crediting Christian Braun, Jamal Murray after he got out of his initial funk, Michael Porter for staying the course, Aaron Gordon for having one of his best shooting seasons of his career. It just hasn't mattered, in large part because of the defense, in large part because Michael Malone wasn't able to strike the right chord with the Nuggets in terms of making sure that they were doing the right things on the defensive end, not making the same mistakes over and over again, providing more effort, doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. Just a really tough place for them to be. But part of the reason why Michael Malone's job was so difficult was because of what Calvin Booth put together with the roster. I don't think that there's any question about that. Everybody and their mother around the national media, around like the fan bases around the NBA, I think everybody gives credit to Jokic for being the best player in the world, but they also question, how could the best player in the world, somebody that we want to, like, we think has a case to be MVP, how could this team be faltering in this way? Well, there's a couple of reasons why. You let go of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in free agency this last year. Bruce Brown the year before that. During the offseason, I described Denver's process as leaking talent away. that talent was kind of leaking away from them. And I stand by that Denver, back when they won a championship in 2023, everybody knew exactly what they were supposed to be doing. Everybody knew what the expectations were. Nikola Jokic was the centerpiece. Once they got Jamal Murray back into form following his recovery from a torn ACL, he was the second option. Michael Porter was their spacer, the guy that they needed to play better defense and stand in the corner at times, but on occasion put together a scoring burst. Aaron Gordon was the glue that held the front court together with his defense, with his athleticism, with his playmaking, and he did that. KCP held the perimeter defense together in a lot of ways, but it wasn't just him. Murray was giving better effort defensively. Porter was giving better effort defensively. Jokic was giving better effort defensively. And they had guys like Bruce Brown and Christian Brown to come off the bench, Jeff Green to come off the bench, and everything just fit. Everybody was pulling the same direction. The Nuggets knew that they had weaknesses that year. They weren't a perfect team. They turned out to be the best team that year, but it wasn't without challenges. It wasn't like they still weren't great on the defensive end that year. They were average. But you felt the confidence in the team that season that you did not feel this year, certainly. I think last year the Nuggets were trying to convince themselves that they had the confidence, but it was a different feeling. And this year has been disastrously different. And I don't know if it's any one person's fault specifically. I don't think it was any person's one fault. I honestly believe that. I think that Michael Malone, he struggled to put together the pieces this year because the personnel just wasn't great. And Calvin Booth, like, part of the reason why Jalen Pickett took so long to play was because Michael Malone didn't want to play Jalen Pickett. And there are some other guys, like some other battles that have been fought over young guys playing and how many young guys are you supposed to play. And there's been a lot of dynamics behind the scenes. And the article that I go back to, the ESPN article that came out, it was knowledge that we knew as local media, and we knew that the dynamic was pretty bad. But the article that I'm referencing, of course, is the one where it basically framed Michael Malone and Calvin Booth as having a standoff and that they were not seeing eye to eye. And I'm not surprised by that. I'm not shocked by that. It's interesting to see. It's gonna be interesting to see what the fallout is from this, from the rest of the players, from the rest of the coaches, from the front office, and from ownership. I will read off the statement that Josh Kroenke put out there in terms of the firings of Michael Malone and Calvin Booth. I thought it was pretty interesting. So this is the statement about Michael Malone. Quote, "It is with no pleasure that we announce that we have relieved Michael Malone of his head coaching duties effective immediately. David Adelman will assume our head coaching role for the remainder of the 2024-25 season. This decision was not made lightly and was evaluated very carefully, and we do it only with the intention of giving our group the best chance of competing for the 2025 NBA championship and delivering another title to Denver and our fans everywhere. While the timing of this decision is unfortunate, Coach Malone helped build the foundation of our now championship level program, is a necessary step to allow us to compete at the highest level right now. Championship level standards and expectations remain in place for the current season. And as we look to the future, we look forward to building on the foundations laid by Coach Malone over his record-breaking 10-year career in Denver. There is no amount of gratitude that we can properly convey to his contributions since he joined our franchise in 2015. It is with our utmost respect that we would like to thank Coach Malone for the most successful decade in Nuggets history, setting the all-time wins record and helping deliver Denver our first championship." Okay. Very strong words from Josh Kroenke. He believed in Michael Malone. He was one of the key factors in helping to hire Michael Malone as well as Tim Connolly. And Malone has been around. This is his 10th season. The message sometimes gets stale after 10 seasons. I believe that he was the fourth longest tenured coach in the NBA up until this point, behind only Greg Popovich, Steve Kerr, and Eric Spoelstra. So hard to, like, those are legends of the game. Those are all Pantheon level coaches, in my opinion. Michael Malone is probably below Pantheon level, but he is always going to have a special place in the heart for Denver Nuggets fans and for the Denver Nuggets organization, with the way that he not only treated people, but the way that he also helped elevate Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, and others within the organization. Here is the statement from Josh Kroenke on general manager Calvin Booth, who they are not extending his contract. Quote, "I want to thank Calvin Booth for leading our front office for the past 3 years, and most importantly, for helping put the final pieces in place for the roster that delivered Denver and our fans their first NBA championship. Calvin's knowledge of the game, his passion for scouting, and his long history as a player and executive in the NBA helped lift our organization to new heights, which we will continue moving forward. We are grateful to Calvin for his 8 years with the Nuggets and know his place in Nuggets history as our first championship-winning GM will be honored for years to come." A little bit less verbose, but still very appreciative, of course. And Calvin Booth does deserve his credit. The ability to tie off the roster. Yes, guys like Murray and Porter were coming back. Yes, Aaron Gordon was already on the roster. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was not. Bruce Brown was not. Christian Brown was not. DeAndre Jordan was not, among other people. And there have been others that Calvin Booth has added, including Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, Jalen Pickett. We will see how those guys continue to develop. He helped get Russell Westbrook onto this roster, though, of course, Nikola Jokic was a prevalent piece in adding Russell Westbrook to this team. And Calvin did do the right things initially to help Denver get a championship. There's no question about it. How he responded immediately. Christian was a great draft pick. I don't think people fully appreciate the different pieces that they could have gone with at that stage. Somebody like Wendell Moore, who I had compared pretty favorably to Christian Brown at that point, Marjon Beauchamp, guys of that nature, they could have absolutely been replaced in that. And I think about when Doc Rivers took over as GM of the LA Clippers, I think about all of the guys that he drafted to try to fit around Chris Paul, JJ Redick, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan at that point, and how it's really hard to hit on those late round draft picks. There's teams that can't do it over and over and over again. The Milwaukee Bucks, a team that has done that repeatedly over the course of the entire last decade. Frankly, they haven't hit on a single draft pick for real. And so for the fact that Calvin in that year hit on 2 after trading JaMychal Green and his contract, taking some chances, things that I didn't necessarily agree with at the time, but he stood forward with his convictions and absolutely helped contribute a title to this roster. He does deserve credit. Since the title, I do not agree with a lot of Calvin Booth's decision-making. That has been widely regarded. I'm not going to sit here and cape for the guy over that. And I think that a lot of Nuggets fans would be remiss if I was trying to cape for both Michael Malone and Calvin Booth in this situation. I'm just trying to lay out the facts. I'm trying to lay out what actually happened, what we've been told as people in the building, as people around the organization, getting some of the inside stuff of what's going on. There were problems. Never going to deny that. Sometimes people were abrasive. It wasn't always pretty. But those guys did help Denver collect the title. And the fact that they are now in this situation it's just sad. Like Calvin I don't know when his next GM opportunity is going to come up. It may never come up. Michael Malone, I think, will be another head coach. I think he's proven that over the long term in terms of like for a decade. But his children have grown up here. His family has laid roots here. Calvin's same thing. Calvin's sons, I think, have been at DU and among other schools around around the Denver area. So on a personal level, it is tough. It's always a tough thing, but this is a business, as is constantly reminded in the NBA. And for Denver to make this decision with today is Tuesday, the end of the regular season is Sunday, 5 days left before the regular season ends, that is a pretty massive gamble for the Nuggets. Is it going to save this season? Probably not. Is it going to save the future of the organization? I don't know. You still have to get the right people in the building. You still have to make the right decisions. And ultimately, the players still have to play well. It's still up to the players. And the players kind of failed both Michael Malone and Calvin Booth in this moment. Was it an ideal situation for those guys? No. Could they have been better? Yes. And I don't think anybody's happy in that organization today. I think everybody is breathing maybe a sigh of relief at pressure being relieved and the decision finally being made. But I do not think anybody is actually happy about what's going on. So maybe it was necessary. And we'll find that out in these coming days, weeks, months, years, that this was the right move to make. From where I'm sitting right now, I don't know. It's hard to tell. Let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to chat about what's next for the Denver Nuggets organization. Again, massive news for the Nuggets and everything going on. We'll talk about it next here on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll. Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Want to make sure to reiterate this podcast, as you know, it's brought to you by the good folks over at SCL Mortgage. Are you looking for a mortgage company that you can trust with hundreds of happy customers and a 5-star reputation? Contact our friends over at SCL Mortgage. They can help you if you're self-employed, if you're looking for a new home and need a down payment, if you're looking for a second mortgage. They definitely take care of you if you have unclear financial needs and financing needs. That SCL Mortgage can definitely help you out. Just make sure to give them a call or send them an email. Call 303-790-2222 or visit myspecialmortgage.com. All right. What is next for the Denver Nuggets? It's a great question. I think that so they've got 5 days left to go in the regular season. Got 3 games left to go before the playoffs begin. David Adelman, as mentioned in the press release, is going to take over as the interim head coach. He has been the interim head coach before when Michael Malone has not been available for specific games. Michael Malone hasn't always been on the sidelines for Denver. Sometimes it is David Adelman. Sometimes it was Popeye Jones at various points. There have been other guys that have taken over in prior years, but now it looks to be David Adelman. Just according to my friend Matt Moore over at Locked On, the Nuggets assistants and the Nuggets front office guys behind the head coach and the general manager are all staying put for now. That's according to Matt. Maybe the Nuggets decide to make a change in the coming days. Maybe they decide to make a change later today. But as of now, it looks like the rest of the structure is going to be in place. For those that don't know, David Adelman, interim coach now. He was the offensive coordinator effectively. Everybody's given the title assistant coach or lead assistant coach in some ways. David Adelman was Michael Malone's right-hand man in a lot of this. He was a guy that Michael Malone could trust with the offense, offensive concepts, making sure to put everybody in different positions. He knows this offense better than just about anybody. And in the temporary, he seems like the right fit to step up and have everybody listen to him. Ryan Saunders is now second in command. He was third on the Nuggets bench behind Malone and Adelman. Ryan Saunders was the defensive coordinator for the Nuggets. He was the guy that would give consistent help on the defensive end, doing what he could with defensive concepts, defensive schemes, making sure to tell people exactly where they need to be, who they're guarding, just different alignments, things like that. Both of those guys played prevalent roles under Malone off the bench. Like every huddle, those guys are talking to Malone. They're convening, they're convening, trying to come up with the right plan heading into the timeout and trying to establish what the team should be doing in that moment. And so if there was an opportunity for Denver to turn things around, it would probably be because a different voice is delivering the message, and Denver's plan is still relatively good, but the players play a little bit harder. They're a little bit more engaged on what's actually being said. It did seem to me like players had been tuning out Malone a fair amount over the course of these last few weeks. And that's one of the reasons why the defense had eroded as much as it did. Was that like as much effort as any one or couple of players can give? If not everybody is giving the same amount of effort, the same amount of focus, then you're just going to have mistakes. So here's hoping that the Nuggets can rediscover the effort that they have to make. It's going to be interesting to see whether they will. As for Calvin Booth and replacing him, Tommy Balcetis is the assistant general manager. He has been in the Nuggets organization for longer than either of Michael Malone and Calvin Booth. I believe that he was hired on in about maybe like 2013, 2014, somewhere around there. Michael Malone, of course, hired 2015-16 season. Calvin Booth was hired, I believe, 2017, I want to say. And it's going to be interesting to see the changes that are made. I don't think that anything is decided in terms of like those guys will be interim options. They're not even really like, I don't even know if this is an interim title for a guy like Tommy Balcetis. The general manager is a little bit different in terms of how to evaluate that, in terms of how to assign those responsibilities than with the head coach, where you need something immediate. The Nuggets will probably have Josh Kroenke and Stan Kroenke making some important decisions. And one of those important decisions is going to be finding a new general manager or president of basketball operations. And whoever they find will probably dictate the direction of the team going forward. I don't think that they'll be able to find that person in 3 days, nor should they try to hire somebody that quickly. That would be ludicrous. You're probably getting through the rest of the season. And while you're getting through it, Josh Kroenke, Stan Kroenke will probably be vetting candidates, whether it's guys like Bob Myers, who is a potential option to come here, whether it's somebody like Tim Connolly to come back, or whether it's just promoting Tommy Balcetis. Like there's plenty of names that will be out there. There's plenty of people that will present their visions and the way that they are trying to redefine and rebuild the Nuggets organization. But it's pretty clear that the Nuggets have needed a shakeup, that they needed, whether it was Calvin's decisions, whether it was Michael Malone's decisions, those helped get Denver to the place where they are. The players aren't entirely innocent in all of this, of course, and that's also something that we'll probably have to talk about, that if Denver does end up failing in the playoffs this year. And by fail, I mean, hey, you either fall into the play-in, you fall into the play-in, you lose in the first round. Even if you get to the second round, if you get the doors blown off, then like, does that really feel good? You're kind of you're going backwards in that case, even though you have Jokic in his prime. So I think for a lot of people, there was a fear that they were going to miss out on an opportunity for this season. With Calvin, I don't think that there was any real consideration about him coming back. He had reportedly turned down a potential extension opportunity, a contract extension. He wasn't super happy with the actual offer there. And then the Nuggets decided to take it off the table. And then that kind of was a cloud that was hanging over the entire Nuggets organization, was that Calvin wasn't happy. And he I think told a fair amount of people that he wasn't happy. I'll be honest about that. And so Calvin kind of put this on himself in some ways. He's definitely like not innocent in this at all. I've gone over the decisions about the roster and not necessarily handling things well, but also just in general, not really handling the people well and the connective parts of the organization. You could see that this was pretty fractured. You could see that this was not a connected group, a connected team. And I think it's pretty clear at this stage that the Nuggets need to find somebody, whoever they find, needs to reconnect the organization. And a lot of that starts with Nikola Jokic and having him continue to buy in to what the Nuggets are selling. Like whatever the vision is, whatever they decide to do, Nikola Jokic needs to keep playing defense, needs to keep leading, needs to keep being a great example for who the Nuggets need to be. And you don't put all of that on him, obviously, but he's the best player in the world. And that just carries a fair amount of responsibility on his shoulders. So I'm going to be interested in how the Nuggets handle things. I'm going to be interested in what happens over the course of these next few days, few weeks. Does this change Denver's playoff outlook? I don't really think so. I don't think that the Nuggets are any more likely to make a run in the playoffs now because they don't have Malone out there. I could be wrong about that. I thought Malone was a pretty good coach. I thought that he made a lot of the great decisions in order to put the Nuggets into a good position to succeed. Their roster is still flawed. There still aren't enough committed defenders on the team. And the committed defenders are probably not good enough offensively to hold up in a playoff environment. And that's an unfortunate reality here. So if it does go that direction, then you're talking about breaking up the team. You're talking about, hey, can't let go of Jokic's prime that easily. You can't allow Jokic the opportunity to ask out without a fight and trying to show to him, trying to commit to him that you are still doing everything that it takes to be as successful as possible. That really has to be how important this is. Like what I was talking about with togetherness and connectivity, that's something that Tim Connolly really brought to the table that Nikola Jokic really valued. The organization was together. It was a family. Everybody's pulling the same direction. Everybody wants the same things. You may go about it in different ways and feel that like if you might yell at somebody if you don't think that they're doing the right thing, but at the end of the day, everybody was a family. And so I hope that they can continue to push that upon Nikola Jokic, and he continues to accept that and lead as that, and continues to bring people into the fold and say, hey, things didn't work out perfectly. That's okay. Let's rediscover that fight, rediscover that passion for Denver Nuggets basketball, and whoever can be a part of that will be a part of that. There are some financial things that the Nuggets have to figure out. There are some unfortunate lack of assets that the Nuggets have at their disposal to really make the changes that many are going to be hoping for. This might be a situation like in Phoenix, maybe not to that degree, but I think Milwaukee is a good example. They traded for Damian Lillard in what was a big surprising move, moving their core pieces and Drew Holiday and I think Grayson Allen in the same deal or a tangential deal. And it didn't ultimately work out for them. They thought that they knew what they needed, and it didn't actually come to fruition. And the same might happen in Denver if they decide to move Jamal Murray, Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon, any of those guys. like for Kevin Durant, for example. Like, I'm not sure if Kevin Durant is going to really help Denver compete for a championship. He might. He might not. You could point to a lot of different names out there. I'll do more of that rampant speculation in the offseason. For now, we're going to talk about the rest of the NBA calendar, the rest of the NBA season. Denver, I'm going to put this up on the screen. I put this out there on social earlier today. This is where the Nuggets stand from a standing standpoint. They're 47-32, fourth in the West. They have 3 games left to go. They would currently be facing the LA Clippers in the Western Conference first round. And then the opportunities would be, the opportunity after that would be to play the OKC Thunder in the second round. I think a lot of Nuggets fans would be okay with that. That would be perfectly reasonable. Okay. This guy is going in timeout. So right now, magic numbers. Denver's got 3 more games left to play, but their magic number is 4. What that says is that the Nuggets need help. They are only 1 game up in the standings on a whole bunch of teams that are 46-32. The Clippers, the Warriors, the T-Wolves, and the Grizzlies are all 46-32. The Nuggets are 47-32. And so if all of those teams end up tied at the end of the year, then the Nuggets are actually 7th place in a 5-way tiebreaker. And what that says to me is that if Denver doesn't take care of business with the 3 games on the schedule that they do have, then they have a very likely chance to fall into the play-in this year, let alone just make the playoffs. So the seeding is so jumbled up right now that I think Denver is at a really unfortunate place. They are going to have to decide how committed they are. Jamal Murray's injury definitely puts this in a really tough place because you would like to have him back, but it kind of sounds like he's a little bit more hurt than was being led on, and he's a little bit more comfortable sitting out, trying to get himself ready for the playoffs. But there's at least a possibility that the playoffs are a little bit not guaranteed. So I'm curious to see how they handle this. I don't know what they're ultimately going to do. There's a lot of things that could still happen between now and the end of the year. There's a very possible scenario where Denver gets the 7th seed, wins the first play-in game, faces the Houston Rockets, and then goes on the road and wins in 6. And then they're suddenly facing the winner of the 3-6 matchup, which could be the Lakers Warriors, Lakers Clippers, I don't know, Lakers Wolves. It's not ideal. And do I have a lot of faith that Denver could make it happen? No. Why would anybody at this point? You just fired your coach and your GM 5 days before the season ended. So, look, this is going to be fascinating to see how they handle it, but the story is not yet fully written. And the Nuggets are at this place right now where if they continue to fight, if they revitalize themselves, then they could make a little bit of a run. But do they want to? Do they feel like this is a lost year? Do they feel like the year is already over? Do they respond well to the idea that the coach and the general manager were just fired? Is that something that's going to galvanize the team, or is it something that's going to break them? We don't know yet. We're going to have to wait and see. All right, folks. Think that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll. Very unfortunate timing here for Denver, but there's going to be a lot to talk about over the course of these next few days. I'll have an article up in the next hour over at Mile High Sports, and I will also be on MHS Today on this same channel later today. If you're listening live, then you could, I'll definitely have some good questions being asked by Sean Drotar and maybe Nate Lundy over there. And we will have to see how it goes. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. hit that like button on the way out if you can. I would really appreciate that. Hit that subscribe button on the way out. Life is not over. There will be other opportunities. Denver is going to go through these playoffs, and even if it doesn't go well, there'll still be plenty to talk about, and you can get that good info here. Thank you so much, everybody. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I'll talk to you guys very soon.